100%.
Yeah.
And it's not even just the sexual assault that destroys your agency. I caution, I'm not obviously speaking for every girl and woman in the world, but I can certainly speak for myself and every girl and woman I know that I grew up with. It's the every single day. It's the I can't walk to school without, as soon as spring hits, you're aware that the landscaping and construction vehicles are going to and from work about the same time, and they're going to hoot and holler at you. It's the walking in the aisles. When I grocery shopped with my dad, and if I went 2 aisles over, then there'd be looks from the other men, whether they're other dads or teenagers or whoever. Just you can feel the eyes on you. It's the agency that you lose every single day just because you're a woman, just because you're a girl, that even as an adult, when I married my husband and I worked from home, so I take my dog out for a walk, and I had to learn which crews in my area were on lunch break at what time so I could avoid them, because the stares, the hollers, the whatever. And this is, in 2015, this is not, a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's that agency that in my own neighborhood, I have to plan a way to walk my dog so I can feel safe and not feel stared at or get hollered at or something like that. So it's not a stretch to say that like women are going, this system of oppression takes my agency every single day from a very young age. Like I dare anyone to ask girls when they first felt objectified sexually as a girl, and it's usually at like age 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, somewhere in there.
All that young.
And so if that happens,
I would have guessed when they hit puberty and develop sexually, but you're saying even younger.
For so many of us, even younger. And it starts like, oh, you're going to be a beaut, can't wait to see you when you're legal, and like comments like that. So when it happens and it's a pervasive part of your everyday life, then at some point it makes sense that you're going to turn around and go, this system, this is literally taking bites of my agency, of my humanity, of my existence every single time I step out of my door or turn on my TV inside my own door, whatever it is. So if I can't beat it, I may as well join it and try and take whatever little scraps of power I can from inside.
Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah, and you're describing something that is, I think, is almost only experienced by women, and men have a really, really hard time. Well, I guess we're the perpetrators 99% of the time, and I'm just like, you didn't say anything new to me. Like, there's nothing I didn't know, but it kind of really hit me in a different way. Like, wow, like every time you leave your house, like you walk in the dog. Like what are guys shouting at you? Like, hey, sweetie, come over here. Or,
literally anything. And sometimes it's not even, oh, hey, nice dog. And maybe they genuinely mean nice dog, but by, 26 years old or however old I'm 20, 28 at that point, I've heard it all. And I know full well someone yelling nice dog is probably not talking about my dog. Though I had a very beautiful dog, maybe they actually just loved my dog, but 28 years or 20 years of that, of being hollered at from a street corner or from a van or from whatever, has taught me to put my resting bitch face on and just, nope. And then you get, oh God, I was just trying to say hi. You're such a bitch. And you're like, cool.
Yeah, well, and I've noticed, like, just in general, where like maybe it's just places where people go, maybe it's the gym or places where there's crowds, and there's women that will never ever make eye contact with you, and I've noticed that, right? And it's just I'm tend to be more of an extrovert, and I'll go and talk to anybody anywhere and sort of just chat people up. And so plus I'm just very aware of my surroundings, being an empath, and always reading the room. And I've noticed over the years that there's people that will, I think I'm thinking of the gym actually right now, where there's certain women that will literally never look at me. And I think I kind of get it. Like I understand why that's as a defense mechanism, right? And it's not like I've never literally said or done anything to them or whatever. It's not me either. It's just that's what they do to get through the day, I suppose, if they've experienced like the things that you have, you know, eating.
When your existence is perceived to be consent, your mere existence is perceived as
Oh,
consent by some people.
oh, wow. Wow.
And when eye contact is perceived as an invitation, not even just consent,
Oh,
but an invitation, you
yeah.
learn to not even make eye contact.
Yeah, and I've heard women say that too, like, don't even want to look at it because then that'll think like, well, we can start a conversation using get my number. So I can't even make eye contact because someone's going to be bugging me for my phone number.
Mm-hmm. And
Right?
that's the best case scenario, that someone bugs you for your phone
Right.
number.
Right.
Worst case scenario is, unfortunately, they stalk you and you die.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and I hate
No, I
to
know,
make it that
no,
dramatic,
no,
but
it's
when you
not.
understand that
It's not
making
like,
eye contact with someone
yeah,
puts you on a continuum where the end of that continuum is your rape, maim, or death,
yeah.
why make eye contact?
Well, I've never, and I don't think hardly any man has ever worried about if I look at a woman, I'll be stalked and killed. I don't think that's ever entered my mind, ever, you know, or probably 99% of guys that you'll ever talk to. So, you know, I'm glad we're bringing this up because I think it really gives a good, I mean, we're not even talking about trafficking right now. We're more talking about just how our society is. And this is Canada, where it's arguably one of the safest, most democratic countries, best countries, let's say, that there is out there. So if that's the best that we have to offer, like, wow. And what's it like in places that are, you know, even less progressive in terms of, you know, equality and women's equality? And this isn't a country where we constantly spout off about women's equality and gender equality and stuff like that. Like, geez, we got such a long way to go, right? I just have another quick question for you. So, and it kind of goes along with what it's almost like, if you can't beat them, join them. You know, if I can't
Mm-hmm.
stop you, then like, let's make some money at it. And then that sort of empowerment thing comes out of it. But is it, I've seen the way women, and this generally tends to be like maybe 30 and under, and it almost seems when I look at the way they dress or carry themselves, and I'm not blaming anyone for how they dress. I'm certainly not implying that a way a woman presents or dresses has is in any way makes her liable for anything that happens, right? But it almost seems like they've self-objectified. It's almost like they've just bought the whole narrative. And I think we're, because women are spoon-fed this from the time they're like 6 years old, that they don't really know any different, except that I am basically an object, and my worth basically does come from my ability to attract male attention. That it almost seems like they do it to themselves in a way. Does that sound sexist, or does that kind of make sense? Like, do you know what I'm saying? It's like they've just bought right
I,
into it and they don't even realize it.
I totally hear what you're saying. I think I would caution some of the language, doing it to ourselves, because if
Okay.
we are taught from a very young age that our value is extrinsic, right? Our value comes from our looks, our ability to entice a man or anything along those lines. If we buy into that or engage in that, then are we doing that to ourselves? And then there's also, what about those of us who feel really good in suggestive clothes, what somebody might term suggestive clothing, right? What, like, it's not necessarily that we're dressing for a man, or certainly not consciously. It's also that I feel good in this, but how do you like unlink that from the patriarchal belief that our value is in our extrinsic appearance? Whereas some of us might go, okay, that doesn't feel true to me. I just really like dressing in a certain way, because that's how I feel confident. I really like my legs, my abs, my chest, my arms, my whatever, and this is how I want to dress. But I don't think that there's a way that we can honor all of those feelings without trying to find some way to like blame someone who is victimized because, or in relation to something like that. So I think we have to be so careful about getting victim blamey there, I guess, because I still like to dress in a way that some other people might be like, oh, that's a little much. You're a mom now, you know, should you be wearing shorts that short? And I'm like, I feel good in shorts this short. Like I like wearing this. This is how I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
But I also like to ask the question is how, you know, if I was raised in a different country or a different upbringing or different society, would that have changed? If I was raised in a matriarchal society, would I want to dress in a way that shows a lot of skin because it's genuinely how I feel confident, or would it be a different reason? I am a self-proclaimed nerd, so any question that is asked, I tend to find 5 other questions to answer the question. So
yeah, and no, I like what you like the point you bring up about the language. Like I'm trying to, I'm not saying that's even the right way to there's more of a question, like it's something I think about, like I'm trying to figure this out, right? And I'm thinking, like, if you were raised as a young woman to believe that your worth is inherent in attracting male attention, then I completely understand why you would want to attract male attention. And then I would also want to have, if you were my daughter, let's say, I don't have daughters, I have sons, but if you were my daughter, I would want to have a conversation about how your value and worth. So it is not about attracting male attention. And then when you're confident in that, then you go dress however you want. Okay.
That I think is a huge point. And you just said you have sons, so just as important is to have a conversation with your sons that somebody's value and you know, somebody else's value and worth is not in how they present themselves to you or how much of themselves they present to you physically. Because that it's a two-way street, right? It's not just about whether women are or are not dressing for men. It's about how men understand whether women are or are not dressing for you. And I'm not here saying that women are dressing for men or not. Women dress according to all sorts of things. We dress according to, like, you know, our period, our wax schedules, our comfort level, our whether we've showered recently, whether we've shaved, whether we shave at all, like all of these things. Men are pretty low on the list if they even get on that list for the most part. But that's consciously, right? Subconsciously is where I think we really need to dig into.
Right.
One thing, and I don't want to divert this too far off topic, but something that someone shared with me that I find so interesting. So I'm a mom. I have a 3-year-old son and an 18-month-old, 19-month-old daughter. Okay. And it was shared with me that some of this starts so young. For example, if we look at the t-shirts and shorts that my kids wear, so they're tiny, tiny, tiny humans, right? My son's shirts, if you shop in the boys section, his t-shirts and shorts will generally come down to about mid-arm, mid-thigh to knee, right? And my daughter's clothes, even though she's 18, 19 months old, she gets the cute little cap sleeve and she gets shorts that are much shorter. Obviously, in the conversation we're having, we're talking about like over-sexualization or hypersexualization that happens at a really young age. That's important. But more than that, if we then send my kids dressed in these little outfits out to play all day, one of them's going to come back and say mom or dad forgot to reapply sunscreen, or they're playing and trying to climb trees, just rough housing and all of that. One of them has clothing that protects more of their skin, is more likely to say protect their inner thigh if they're sliding down a tree that they've climbed, or protect their shoulders if they're out in the sun too long. And the other one has clothing that is actually not facilitating that same bodily engagement with the world. The clothing that girls are wearing is actually kind of showing them like, the clothing is not meant to help you engage and learn in the world, right? Your clothing does not protect you from the world. It's not there to help you engage with the world. It's there to look pretty, to look cute, like all of that. Whereas boys' cute clothing tends to be a lot more utilitarian. It covers more of their skin. They get more cargo pockets or real pockets. Don't even get me started on pockets. Like my son has real pockets and I don't. I don't know what he has to carry that I don't have to carry other than the keys to the patriarchy, apparently. But like he can carry my cell phone in his pockets better than I can carry my cell phone in my pockets. Yes. So from this super young age, we're talking toddlerhood, we are already teaching, engendering children with how useful their clothing is to their exploration and learning of the world.
Yes.
Those little things, little or not little, depending on how you look at it, that is what is that like snowflake that then attaches to another snowflake that attaches to another that slowly snowballs. So by the time you're 15,
Yeah.
you have a worldview that is comprised of all of these different little snowflakes, for lack of a better term, that is forming what you think is your completely conscious opinion. Whereas
Right.
realistically, there is a lot of subconscious and learning that leads to that opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And then I think of the, let's say young women that are not meeting this standards of what society considers beautiful. You know, maybe they're a little bigger, maybe they, I mean, really it's genetics, okay? Let's be honest.
Mhm.
Like if you're a supermodel, you just won the genetic lottery. You didn't actually win.
Yeah,
Like
it
you
doesn't
really,
actually make you a good person. That just
no,
makes
you
you a genetic
really
winner.
didn't accomplish anything. Like you just sit in hair and makeup for 3 hours and then go show off your genetics, right?
Mhm.
But for women that are not meeting the social standards of criteria, and they're growing up in a world where your value is based on your ability to attract male attention, and they spent their entire life being looked over, passed by, or guys talk to them just so they can get introduced to their good-looking friend. And I think that must be incredibly discouraging and difficult to have to deal with that. I mean, guys go through that to a degree too, but I don't think to the degree that women do. Because with a guy, if you're not that great looking, you can always be like funny or a good athlete or juggle flaming swords or something. Like there's some kind of skill, as Napoleon Dynamite said, chicks like guys with mad skills, you know. So there's something you can do that can be impressive, maybe. And it just doesn't seem uh, doesn't seem just in a way how what we're teaching our kids. Well, it doesn't seem right what we're teaching them, right?
It's not.
And and I say we generally. I'm sure there's lots of parents that are giving good messages, like you know, it's about your personality and your intelligence and what you do. And it doesn't matter what you look like, and don't compare yourself to other people and like all those great things. But you know, how many kids actually learn that? Or even if they get it learned at home, does society just bulldoze that right over anyway, right?
Mhm.
So
That's where you need the deep societal change,
yeah,
um, to create long lasting change. Because absolutely, I think we're starting to see that. We are starting to see that,
yeah,
but obviously we need more work to be done, because you need to not. We need to exist in a place where being a girl, being a woman, is not an inherent vulnerability.
mm,
Right? That's one of the things when I talk about trafficking and I teach parents about trafficking. There's so many parents who are like, I don't want you talking to my kid about trafficking. They're 10. They're way too young to learn about trafficking. And I'm like, well,
no, they're
first of
not.
all, you can talk about trafficking without ever talking about trafficking to really young kids. And that's talking about vulnerabilities and healthy relationships and consent, which doesn't have to revolve around sex, because consent is not, just about sex. It's about learning permission and getting permission.
Right.
And then there's always that piece that, like, first, so what I was saying, yeah, you have to talk about those vulnerabilities and all of that. And then also, if you want to talk to your kids about stuff, they're going to learn about it anyway, right? Like, just because you don't want to talk to your kids about it doesn't mean they're not going to learn about it. Just means they're not going to learn about it from you.
Yeah.
You don't want your kids learning about human trafficking from the bowels of the internet. I promise. Like, you want them learning about it from an expert or someone with lived experience or someone who can talk honestly about some of those red flags and what you should be looking for. But we need to get to a place where being like 50% of our population does not have an inherent born vulnerability to being a victim of something like human trafficking just because they were born female. And that's not to say males aren't trafficked. I'm not trying to disclude that at all.
Oh, I
There
know.
are other vulnerabilities. Being a woman or a girl
Also,
is not the only vulnerability to being trafficked, but it is a major one.
so let's get back to the where we left off with 6 months later. What happened that you consider was the turning point to leave this exploitative relationship? So how exactly did you get out? Like you said, you end up moving, but can you explain how that happened?
Absolutely. I got in a car accident.
Oh,
I almost died, and it saved my
oh,
life.
oh, wow. Okay. Okay. Were
But
you in the hospital for a long time?
I wasn't in the hospital for a long time. I was actually driving to work at that tanning salon I was working at in the morning. It was April 2007, dry road, sunny, no real reason for my car to have any issue. Somebody came slightly into my lane. I remember that. I was exiting at the Royal Windsor Drive exit in Oakville, which is actually quite a long highway exit. You sort of exit right onto a service road.
Okay.
Someone came into my lane and I pulled my steering wheel slightly to like make sure they didn't hit me, and my car went flying off the road. I have no proof as to what happened or why. I have heard rumors that my ex was responsible for damaging my car, which led to the accident. I have absolutely no proof. That was all just, like I said, rumors. I was unconscious. I was knocked out. Somebody saw a trucker, I think, saw what happened. My car was on fire or was smoking. He pulled me from my car and called 911. I vaguely remember the
Thank you,
paramedics being
trucker.
there.
If you're watching this, trucker, thank you for saving Alexandra's
You
life.
saved my life. Thank you. The paramedics picked me up, brought me to the hospital. Apparently I was yelling at them saying, you know, I have to get to work. I don't want to go to the hospital. Don't call anyone. Don't call my boyfriend. Like I'm fine. Let me go. When I got to the hospital, I guess I don't know what led. I don't have a lot of the information still. Something led to them doing a tox screen on me, and it showed there was methamphetamine in my system, which I think is basically what put, for lack of a better term, the scarlet letter A on me. You know, it just was like, oh, she's a drug addict.
Right.
Like, so nobody asked any more questions. Nobody asked why there was burn marks or healed bruises or like a slice on me, like any of the injuries I had on my body. Nobody asked more questions about that. I was in the hospital for maybe 24 hours, if that. They called my parents. I was brought home to my mom's house where I was living at the time. And she took care of me. But for the next couple weeks, I was useless to my boyfriend. I could barely move. I had broken ribs. I had a tooth had gone through my lip. You know, I was black and blue, vision, like my face, like just everything. I was completely useless. And he was also my drug dealer, right? So this like couple week break of not being around him, of not doing drugs, of not anything, really cleared my mind enough
Right.
to make a decision to be like, this isn't my life. This isn't how my story ends. I need to find a way to get out. So I had previously applied to a bunch of different schools and then kind of just forgotten about it. I'd gotten into all the schools. At one point I had agreed or accepted St. Clair College in Windsor. I'd gone there to just check out the campus. And while I was there, I got pictures. My boyfriend sent me pictures saying, you know, you didn't ask permission to leave. I know that you're in Windsor. It was pictures of someone following me that had taken pictures of me in Windsor. And I was like, oh, okay, I won't be going here. And I just put the idea of school to rest and put the idea that my life existed outside of, you know, what was happening away. And this break, I actually remembered a conversation I'd had with my boyfriend where he had told me that he'd been in jail in Ottawa and he had ratted on someone and therefore he could never go back to Ottawa because people wanted him dead. And at this moment, I remember if I was a cartoon, a light bulb would have gone off above my head.
I know where to go to school.
Exactly. Like, I'm moving to Ottawa. That is perfect. I had been accepted to Algonquin College in Ottawa. It was one of the places I'd applied to. My big brother had actually just moved to Ottawa. So it was just like all signs point to Ottawa. And I just kind of quietly, like I said, there was some extricating myself. At this point, I was actually in May of 2007. I was actually in the prelim hearings for the trial against my friend's uncle because we had gone to the police.
Okay.
Unrelated, obviously, to my current situation.
Had he abused other women, Alexandra?
Pardon me?
Had he abused other women as well?
Yeah, he abused my best friend and her little sister, which we didn't know about each other until one day we were talking and we found out. And then he had young daughters, and that's what spurred us to go to the police because we wanted to protect them.
Did he get convicted or did he go to jail?
So we were in prelim hearings in May 2007. few days before my birthday in July 2007, I got a call from the Crown in early July, I think we found out that there was enough evidence to go to a full trial. And a few days before my birthday, we got a call that he had killed himself. So he was never convicted. He convicted himself, I guess.
He sentenced himself, right? Did that give you any sense of satisfaction, or would you rather have seen him rot in jail for 20 years? Or?
Neither. He was, it was so complicated. He was my best friend's uncle. I grew up with him as my uncle. I hated what he did, but I loved him dearly.
Wow.
I didn't want to see him go to jail.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see him dead. I wanted him to just go away. So this sort of abrupt ending to everything was anticlimactic, and it actually resulted in a lot more trauma to uncover because there was no closure. It was just you're going through trial prep, which it took us years and delays, and I was on the stand for like 14 hours or something crazy during the prelim hearings with him sitting there staring at me and all of that. So and then we get calls saying we're going to full court, so I'm starting to prep myself for this, and all of a sudden it's like the screen goes black. It's done.
Yeah.
Done. So that was a whole.
It's like building up to the climax of the movie, and then the power goes out and never comes on again, and you don't see.
They're just like, well, yeah, you get to write your own ending now, and you're like, I don't want to. I was not prepared for this. So that was happening, and then so in July, I think right around that time is when I moved to Ottawa. And I moved to Ottawa and I started school at Algonquin College. I did really, really well in my first year of school, self-proclaimed nerd, just fell right back into like, yes, I sit in the front row. I have my hand up. I'm answering all the questions. I got a scholarship to the University of Ottawa where I started my criminology degree. Nice. And then Chris, actually, my boyfriend, showed up in Ottawa, even though he had said he couldn't be there. I was out partying on St. Patrick's Day, doing what all the cool college kids do, which is drinking my weight in green beer. And I literally felt a tap on my shoulder, and I turned around and he just said, "I told you I'd fucking find you."
How did he find you?
I mean, I wasn't.
Ottawa's a big city.
Ottawa's big. So we went to the Honest Lawyer downtown in the market. I don't know how familiar with Ottawa, but there's one made bar that I don't even know if it's still there. But the Honest Lawyer downtown. My boyfriend at the time, I had a new boyfriend. He worked there. He worked security there. So I was there like every night, pretty much, and certainly on the weekends. I lived in the market. I lived right downtown. I don't think it would have been hard for him to find me. I was either at Algonquin College or I was within like a 5-block radius of downtown. And while he couldn't come to Ottawa, he had a lot of influence in Ottawa. He knew people there. So I'm guessing he had people either looking for me for some time, or I also didn't fully understand social media. I had Facebook, and while I had blocked and deleted him, I didn't necessarily block and delete every conduit of information to him. Right. So there was some of that of me, pictures of me, at the lawyer or something. I wouldn't have taken a PI to figure out where I was. Right. So yeah, he showed up there, and it was that I finally went to the police.
So what happened when he said, I told you I'd find you? You must have, your heart must have just fell to the floor when you looked at him.
So I talked earlier a little bit about how I convinced myself that our relationship, like most of the things, hadn't happened, right? So up until this point, this is, I believe, March 2009. So I left in summer 2007, and we're now March 2009. I've had that much of a break from him. I have convinced myself that most of the stuff didn't actually happen. I've had 101 shower arguments in my brain with him, right? Of how I would win the argument, and this is what I would do. And when he showed up, I would squint at him and be like, "Oh, is that you?" Thinking, like, pretend I thought it was his twin brother, because he hated when people confused the two of them. Like, I had this all figured out. And when he tapped on my shoulder, I honestly, I very clearly remember doing like one of those like, oh, kind of go away. I thought it was just some dude who was trying to get my attention. I didn't even see him at first, but this is one of the things that got me so interested in trauma response, because the trauma response within my body, even though my brain, my eyes did not register that I saw him, my body registered that I saw him. And I don't actually even remember seeing him behind me. The next thing I remember is sitting in the corner of the bathroom vomiting green beer. That's like, it was, my body just reacted, knew exactly who was behind me, whether it was from his voice or I saw him or whatever. And I ran through the bar, got into the girls' bathroom and vomited green beer. At which point somebody got my brother. My brother knew who he was, having grown up in the same city, knew some of what I had dealt with him. They got me out of the bar into my current boyfriend's, pardon me, apartment. At which point my brother was like, you're going to the police now. Like, this is insane. But you'll go tomorrow morning because you're drunk at St. Patrick's Day. You're a college kid and you're covered in green vomit.
Right.
So
Not a good time to show up at the police.
like, you need to calm down and shower, and then we'll go tomorrow morning. And that's exactly what I did. I went into the police station the next morning. I remember that so clearly. You have to take a number, and they have this thing in the middle of the lobby. You know, it's like a round glass thing. When they call your number, you go up and you tell them, pardon me, what you're there for. And I remember going up and trying to be very calm because I wanted them to take me seriously. And as soon as I opened my mouth, it was like, my boyfriend's here and he's trying to kill me, but he's not trying to kill me right now. But I swear he tried to kill me before and he's not supposed to be here. He can't come to Ottawa, you know, like just this like word vomit. And I remember the officer being like, okay, what's his name, date of birth, all of this. We'll look him up. Here's some paper. Can you write down what you're trying to tell me?
Right.
Write down everything and give it back to me. And I was like, okay. So I got to sit to the side, still in this super busy room, writing down what later turned out to be my written statement. And I had absolutely no idea that this was my written statement. And at some point, the detective had pulled him up on her in her information, because they came over to me and they were like, showed me a picture. Is this your boyfriend? And I said, yeah. Or ex-boyfriend. And I said, yeah. Said, he's known to us. He's extremely dangerous. You're in danger. Do you know that? And I remember just being like,
I've been trying to tell you that.
I am in the police station. Yes, I know I'm in danger. Like,
why do you think I'm here?
Exactly. So from that point forward, they launched an investigation. They charged him with forcible confinement, assault causing bodily harm, breach of probation, and uttering death threats. We went through the whole court process, which went on quite a bit longer than it should have. And he was found not guilty on 3 of the 4 charges. That then when he was finally found not guilty, he was actually held on remand throughout all of that, partially from his criminal history and partially because I think he got in a fight in jail or something like that. So he was held. When he was found not guilty, he had to finish up whatever time he had accrued from the fight or something. I don't know the exact details. He was released, and it took him less than 2 weeks to find out where I was working and showed up there. I was actually serving at a strip club at that time because my life had just started unraveling. I dropped out of school. I was just working and serving at a strip club, debating whether I should start dancing again, because it felt
really
to me,
sent you into a spiral just seeing him. It sounds
oh my goodness. For me, it was like, who do you think you are? You tried to escape this, but this is obviously what your life is supposed to be. So, you know, whatever good you did is fake. You're an imposter. This is your true life, sort of thing.
Wow.
And yeah, he showed up at my work. I went back to the police. They had told me they were looking for him to charge him again. This was in November 2010 now. And then I didn't hear from them. I started going into hiding, I knew some people who worked in some more underground type situations who were helping me come up with a new identity, some new credit cards, new passport, like all of that, because I was just going to disappear. That was my plan. And then in January 2011, I got a call that he had been stabbed to death. So
What?
that was the end of that story.
Wow, you really should make a movie of your life. I mean, good stuff. I mean, it's like an episode of Breaking Bad or something. I mean, that's insane.
I know. I think that comes like the nervous laughter, and it's one of those things of like, and then he was stabbed to death. I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
how else to end that sentence.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow, wow. Oof. Okay, well, I do want to, we're going on an hour, coming up to 2 hours here, and it's really gone by fast, eh?
It really has. I feel like you're gonna have to make this into like 2 episodes or something because
I
nobody's got
am,
2 hours
because
to sit
no one
down and
listens to a
listen.
2 hour YouTube video. And I'll break it up into two sections, and then I can post part 1 and 2, because I mean, such good stuff. And I mean, I'd really love to talk longer, but we will have to wrap up at some point soon here. But let's just jump to sort of my last question. I'm sure there's a lot of interesting stuff about how you basically adjusted to a normal life. I mean, you're married with kids now and seem to have like really turned things around, but maybe that'll be a talk for another day. But what do you just quickly, what do you want people to know about sex trafficking, and how can they make a difference, or become activists to help with this in their communities?
Absolutely. Biggest thing about sex trafficking, it is not that thing that happens over there, right? It's not that thing. And I say that thing capitalized and over there capitalized. It is this thing that happens right here. It happened to me. And I'm sitting right in front of you, or through your monitor if you're watching this on your desk, right? Like, it is real and it's happening. And it doesn't have to be this big, crazy, organized crime thing. It can be a coercive boyfriend. That's what I want people to know. Or as to how to get involved, I truly believe that we have to honor people's boundaries. So some people, I often, when I teach, I show this chart, right? You know, time and money. Some people have time and not a lot of money. Some people have money, not a lot of time. Some people have, you know, somewhere in between. So I always say, honor what you have. If you don't have the time to give to an organization or to advocacy work or whatever, but maybe you have a spare $20 or whatever is financially makes sense, find an organization that honors values. You know, I'm sure I can provide a list, or you can look some up for Canada or the US and donate to them because they're doing good work. Don't reinvent the wheel. They're already doing great work. Donate. If you have time, but you don't really have money, buy a book from a survivor. And you know, read about what you can learn. If you have kids, talk to your kids. You can talk to your kids about trafficking without ever talking about trafficking. You can talk to your young kids about consent. If you are a guy and you're like, this doesn't feel like my field because it's a women's issue, well, let me talk to you about the trafficking triangle: trafficking, traffickers, buyers, and victims. Statistically, 2 out of the 3 of those are male. It is your lane. Get involved.
Yeah.
If all you feel comfortable doing is saying, when your friend says something that's, you know, is kind of fucked up, just turn to your buddy and say, that's fucked up, dude. Right? Shut the conversation down. Don't get involved. Whatever it is that honors your own boundaries and your own abilities, please get involved. Last thing I'll say, this is my website. Thank you for sharing it. I am learning how to be active on social media. I am not great at it, but I am trying to get tips and tricks out there for anybody who needs them, and just teach about trafficking. So go ahead and follow me on Instagram at The Laughing Survivor, or on TikTok at The Laughing Survivor. And I'm still kind of learning how to use those, but that'll give you some interesting information on how you can get involved in a way that works for you.
Yes, so I see there's some talks that you give. So if you're watching this and you're part of a school, an organization, a community organization, a women's shelter, anything like that, here's 3 of your talks. I guess, Alexandra: I laugh in the face of trauma, but why don't they just leave? What doesn't kill you makes you weird at parties. I love that one. Educational sessions as well. So Alexandra does guest speaking, keynote speaking, seminars. I guess probably anything that anyone that wants you to come speak, you will do, right?
Absolutely. absolutely love talking about this subject. I am the person, I always say, invite me to your backyard barbecues, because like we'll cheers over a glass of tequila and I'm going to get you talking and laughing about trafficking. Not saying trafficking is funny, but if I can get people laughing, then they're generally more open to continuing the conversation. So I try and keep it light and throw in a little bit of wry humor where I can.
Yeah.
And also I've lived in the underworld for long enough that like not a lot shocks me. I don't just visit it on Thursday nights at 9 o'clock when Law and Order SVU is on, right? Like this is
Right.
my life now as
You
an
lived
advocate.
Law and Order SVU. You lived
And
it.
it was my life as a victim for many, many years. So just, I like to create spaces where people are willing to have difficult conversations or interested in engaging in them. So that's huge.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Alexandra. I really enjoyed that. It was really wonderful to meet you. It's well done on all of the work and activism that you still do. I think it's so important that survivors share their stories. I just think it's incredibly courageous. You know, anytime someone agrees to meet me and talk, and I mean, you've never met me, like Alexandra and I've never met. We just connected through social media, and I'm just still, I started this channel about a year and a half ago, and I'm just so pleasantly surprised at how willing and open people are to share their stories with someone that, you don't, I mean, you don't really know. And is it hard? Like, was it hard today revisiting some of those things? No,
No,
talked about it
I
so
get
much now, eh?
part of it is I talk about it so much. I have a team of mental health professionals that I work with to keep me able to share. And when I get to share and when I get to talk to you or do seminars or keynotes, I'm changing my story. It stops being a story about something terrible that someone did to me and starts being my story of redemption and how I'm taking something so dark and using it to shine light where other people may not be able to do that or don't have the support system that I do. So for me, it honors the person that couldn't speak for so many years, that was trapped. I'm honoring her by speaking now.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, well, we'll wrap up here. Thanks again so much for taking the time to speak with me and for everything that you do on behalf of other survivors. And I don't think that we know the difference that we make when we you'll never know probably the people that will hear you talk and not get into that life, right? Because you can't see what won't happen. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're going to help and have already helped many women not go down that path already just from sharing your story. So thanks for that and for making a difference.
I hope so. Thank you so much for having me on your channel.
Okay, take care.